I had not planned on making this video, but recently leaked documents have forced me to interrupt my scheduled material to make my thoughts known. Let me briefly summarise. China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Argentina, India, Japan, Norway, OPEC and Brazil. They all want to continue their bad old ways with mining, drilling and polluting. And they have been trying to exert influence in the background behind the scenes without letting us know. The same way they operate their tax evasion and other corrupt policies behind closed doors, so you and I are not aware until it is too late to act. They say they want to use carbon capture and storage, or CCS, to mitigate the consequences of their actions. But solar, wind and battery are already cheaper, and if you add the cost of CCS to fossil fuels, the gap only widens further. So what is their agenda? Let us consider the facts and details, and I think they will become obvious. We are in the most important years of human history right now. We face the choices that will determine the type of lives we will lead in the future, and especially those of the young and still to be born. Our decisions and our actions now are of paramount importance to the future of humanity and the way we live on this planet. It is not even as though we debate whether it is happening. Every government on earth agrees it is happening. Every scientist not on the payroll of some legacy industry is shouting as loud as they can. We are approaching tipping points, the like of which it is impossible to imagine the scale of damage that will follow. And this is the critical factor. Those arguing and submitting their own self-serving agendas do not disagree that it is happening. All they argue for is to allow the continued use of fossil fuels as long as they can use carbon capture and storage as a mitigating technology, and to stop you being able to protest. CCS, as it is known, is not new, and it is an essential technology that will be required along with all the others that we have at our disposal in the future. But it is expensive, very expensive. It has been known about for many decades and promised on many occasions, most notably when the coal industry and their apologists tried to make claims for clean coal. Firstly, they are not perfect, and so would not stop all the gases from entering the atmosphere. Secondly, it is not just the burning that causes the emissions. The mining and transport is also a cause. And the biggest and most significant point is they are very, very expensive. So much so that almost all the times they have been promised in the past when building a new power station, they have never been implemented. And on the few occasions they were implemented, they have made the resultant power so expensive that the power stations were closed well ahead of planned closure. Solar and wind with battery is already the cheapest option, as I have a video coming up next about. The International Energy Agency already states that, so why do they protest so much? Well, the companies concerned have so much money tied up in the mines and the oil rigs and the pipelines and the shipping and the processing plants, never mind the power stations and petrol stations, that they do not want them to become stranded assets, because that would impact their share prices, their stockholders and the company's value, along with their own personal wealth. Now, they know this is all true and they can see the trajectory the world is on towards clean energy, so they seek to manipulate their influence over governments to back their projects with taxpayer guarantees, so that we will pay for their mismanagements for decades to come, and not just with climate issues and poor air quality, but financially with government-backed promises to buy everything they can produce. But within the next decade, the new technologies will usurp them so swiftly and so soundly that they will be unable to compete in a free market. But with government backing, using taxpayers' money, even if their mines, oil rigs, power plants and other stranded assets do become dead weights, They could close down entirely and the politicians and executives will still get paid. They will still be sitting pretty on mountains of our money that they can use to make sure that they can live in luxury and avoid the consequences whilst we suffer their foolish greed. Let us look in more detail at what they are requesting to be removed from a document that has been thoroughly researched and is backed by every climate and energy expert not on their payrolls. Australia asks IPCC scientists to delete a reference to analysis of the role played by fossil fuel lobbyists in watering down action on climate change in Australia. They have more spare land and sun than almost anywhere else. Solar is obvious, but the mining companies have the government in their pockets and the politicians on their payrolls. The US OPEC also asked the IPCC to delete lobby activism, protecting rent-extracting business models, preventing political action. You see, they are scared of your voices and your actions. They like freedom of speech, as long as you shut up and listen to your lords and masters. Saudi Arabia, the biggest oil exporter, requests the UN scientists to delete their conclusion that the focus of decarbonisation efforts in the energy systems sector needs to be on rapidly shifting to zero carbon sources and actively phasing out fossil fuels. Of course they do. They make more money than anyone off our slow deaths. And the government is the company. They are one and the same. We suffer whilst they live in luxury at our expense. Argentina, Norway and OPEC are also loud in their desire to let CCS take the burden. Let me be clear. We need carbon capture and carbon drawdown, both technologically and naturally with the environment. And with both working together and a clean energy supply being developed, we might be able to gain control and save the worst effects. However, CCS alongside fossil fuels is a mad person's game to play, and only a game that old people with just a few years to live would even consider. It is a game the ultra-rich can afford to play, as they can build whatever defences they want and move wherever they desire to start a new existence in comfort. This is not a sane game, and it is not a game the world should be playing. We need to make our voices heard louder than ever now, because they have shown their hands and they care nothing for you or me, or the world that we want to see. They just see money and profit and their own short lifetimes, which will soon be over, and then they care not what happens. We need to make our actions stronger. We need to protest with our money by supporting those who want change and not supporting those who only care for themselves. And we need to make sure our leaders know the next time we come to vote, we will vote anyone out who is seen to be putting corporations and their profits above the rights and wishes of the people and the environment that supports us. The time to act is now. The time to shout is now. The time to take back the future is now. War has been declared. They care not for us. They care only for themselves, and they are motivated only by greed. Let the fight back begin. Thank you for dropping by, and why not let us know your thoughts in the comments below.